Hey everyone, just say hi in the room if you can hear me. So I know you guys are here and you can hear me okay. Hey Al, hey Thierry, hey Christian, hey Antonio, Enrique, Leah. Hey everybody. Cornelia, Stefan, Benjamin. Amazing, so happy to see you all here. So great to see you and thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar. Hey Jenny, hey Hugo. Hey Artis from Latvia, that's nice. Melissa and Pierre and Alfred, hey guys, thank you so much. So happy to see you all here. So appreciative to see you all here. From Philippines, from Dublin, UK, France. This is like a really international crowd. So great to see everybody here. Germany, Italy, Norway, Hungary, Czech Republic, Colombia, Florida, San Diego. Amazing. I'm so happy to see you all here. So we're going to start in just a second. Today we're going to talk about the art of getting things done. If you're all psyched about learning a new productivity method, just write down, I'm so excited for this productivity method. No, just kidding. It's way too long. So first of all, I want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. This is our second webinar in our Productivity Masters webinar series. This is basically a webinar series in which each month we share insights on how to be more productive from productivity method and tips, some tips on Any.do, productivity methods you can use, and so on. Myself, I'm Roy Pavarchik. I'm head of growth at Any.do, and with us here, helping us through the chat, is the amazing Shirley, who's head of customer success at Any.do. So if you have any questions or anything you want to ask, you can always ask in the chat, and Shirley will be here to help and answer your questions. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, just type them out. I'm also going to be looking for them. And of course, I'll try to answer what I can live. Shirley will answer some of the questions in the chat, and we'll hopefully answer everything. Yeah, so Ellen, thank you. So happy to see you. Susan, last month is available. So I'm going to say it up front. I'm going to say it up front. You're going to get the slides and the replay to your email probably tomorrow or the day after. And in the next, I guess, few weeks, we're going to set up a new webinar hub or a page where you can go and see all the previous webinars as well. Now, I just want to say that within this webinar, we also have like a premium early limited time offer of the yearly Any.do plan. So throughout this webinar, I'm going to mention some of the features that are premium features. So if you're a free user and you want to upgrade, this is really a really great time to do so. So wait, okay. So you can just click on the link here, and you can basically go and get the limited time offer, and purchase Any.do at a discount rate for premium. So you can already start using it. And using the productivity method we're gonna go through today. Okay, so let's get right to it. So let's start with what is GTD. So GTD, getting things done, is a productivity method invented by David Allen. It's basically a productivity method and a framework for capturing, organizing, and tracking tasks that you can rely on to guide you on working on the right things on the right time. Right. So this it has a lot of very specific details in it, and throughout the webinar we'll understand exactly what they mean. The right thing at the right time is important, and basically the structure and how to make sure you're working on the right thing is very critical. Now, there's one of the benefits of GTD is that it really helps reduce stress and anxiety. So how does it help you reduce stress or anxiety? So number one, our brain was designed for thinking and creativity, not for being a storage center, right? So trying to always remember something or always having all these thoughts in your head that are things you cannot act on right now, right, are basically just like taking CPU, if you're like your mental CPU, and it causes you useless stress. So let's say, for example, that I'm at my kid's recital right now, and I suddenly remember that I have a presentation to make for work in 3 weeks from now, and I have an idea for it. Or I start worrying about, oh, when will I do my presentation? When will I get it ready, right? So this is basically a useless use for my mental CPU. Why? Because I cannot act on it, right? I can just sit there at the auditorium thinking, damn, I need to do something about the presentation. But it's not going to help you because you're just there stressing over not being able to relax and be in the moment, right? So our brain was designed for thinking creativity, not for being a storage center. Next, when you find a system that you can trust, such as GTD, you can keep your worries at bay. Now, once you know, you will see the action item you need to see when you need to see it. Once you know, you're never going to miss any other details, or you're not going to miss any task or due dates, right? You can be more relaxed, right? You don't have to be, oh, did I remember everything? Did I forget anything? Because you know that your system is bulletproof, and you know that as long as you rely on it and you review it and you use it every day, you're always going to stay on top. Okay, so this is the second reason why GTD is so great at reducing stress. And number three is that you export your thoughts, to-dos, and concerns, right? So using the GTD process, it will be very easy for you to capture and process random thoughts to set your mind free. So for example, let's say that you're going to bed and you suddenly think of a new idea or something you can do, right? Throughout what we call the capture process, right? You'll be able to do something with that thought. You wouldn't be just having that in your head and thinking, oh, wait, I have to remember this, I have to remember this, and be concerned about remembering. You wouldn't be concerned about writing it on a notebook or just like any kind of paper and saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to find a way, like hopefully I will remember to go back to my notepad and add it. So basically, it's a process where every time something like comes on top of mind, you'll be able to capture it and process it in a fast and easy way, so you'll never forget it, and you can rely on encountering it on the right time. So you don't have to be concerned about all to-dos, or any concern on like what are my next things that I need to do, or not remembering or forgetting stuff. So how does, like, I talked to you about this, almost magical sounding method, right? But how does it actually work? So it's a 5-step process. The first one is called capture. Second one is clarify. Then you organize, review, and engage. So just in a word, capture is the moment where you actually capture all the ideas and to-dos and tasks and worries into one place. Clarify is the process of understanding what that to-do or worry means and is. Organizing it's about setting up in the designated place. Reviewing is the process of staying on top of everything you need to do. And engage, of course, is actually doing the thing. By the way, if I'm talking too fast or if something is unclear, just write it down in the chat and I'll be happy to respond. Now, of course, in this process, there's a bit of a difference between if you're doing this for the first time or where you're already, let's say an avid or an experienced GTD user. So when there are differences or where there are caveats to mention between first time and ongoing, I will try to always talk about them and make sure that we understand like what to do when I'm just starting out and what do I do on the day-to-day and how the transition kind of looks like. So let's start with our first step, which is capture. Capture is the process of extracting everything you have on your mind, email, text, notepads, every idea, to do, anything you're trying to remember, and add it to the new Any.do based system we'll discuss today. So the idea in the capture process, right, is that you basically take everything that you have on your mind. You go through your emails, your WhatsApp, your text messages, your, notepads, previous notebooks, notes on your, your Apple Notes, Google Keeps, wherever you're keeping all these scattered thoughts, ideas, tasks, to-dos, and basically everything you can think of, like something you want to do or someday want to do, right? So this is basically where you're gonna, this is the process where you put everything into one place, right? So for the first time you're gonna do this, you should dedicate some time to brain dump all your open loops. An open loop is basically a task or an idea or a thought that you don't have processed yet. It's called open loop. And you're gonna capture it into one place before going into the clarification and organization process. So the result of this step, is basically you taking everything from all the resources you have and putting them in one very, very, very long list. So at the beginning, it's a very, very long list, which we'll tackle in a second on how we organize and manage, right? But after you've done it for the first time, it went through the process once, you move to the ongoing mode. Ongoing mode is basically where you do this, every day. And once you have a new idea, you just capture it and you put it through the process. It takes literally minutes. So the first time you should kind of save some time. You're going to go through all your emails. You can reach inbox 0, using this system. You can go through all your notes and see what's relevant and what's not using this system, and basically drop there everything, every idea, every concern you have. Trust me, it's so refreshing and nice just to see everything written down, even before you take the first action step. Brian, yeah, if you have hundreds of ideas, I think most of them will probably are worth writing down. But throughout this process that we're going to discuss now, you're going to see how you're going to write them down and which one you should and which one you shouldn't. So first timers, I would spend at the beginning. For me, the first time I started using GTD, I think I spent almost a day kind of going through all the emails, WhatsApp, ideas that I had in mind, conversations I remember having. So it took me a while to really get everything in place, like a few hours to a day. Yeah, you can do it also as a weekend project if you have the time. So that's also a good way to start. And remember that after you've done the process once, you move automatically to ongoing mode, which is capturing the new things that are coming in. Right now, some recommendations on how the capturing of new to-dos. I think one of the most important things is that you'll have an easy way to capture your new to-dos. I think one of the biggest pitfalls or the biggest mistakes people make is that they start kind of, let's say, delegating. Instead of writing it straight into their system, they're going to start writing into a different notebook or I don't know, or a napkin, or they just start adding more places where they capture. And the inbox where they process all their ideas now is split between different places, right? And once it's split between different places, you're actually, you're basically messing up with your system, because now you cannot rely on your system anymore, because maybe your idea is not what you was supposed to be, but maybe now there's a different notebook I should look at. And if it doesn't sync, if it's not in the same place, then my system will be broken. So one of the first things that I do when I set up a GTD process is make sure that I have all the ways to capture my ideas and resources in the fastest way possible from anywhere. So like for Any.do users, right, I would, number one, download Any.do to all your devices that you're using. It could be desktop, mobile, tablet, watch. Use the WhatsApp integration. I don't know how about you, but for me, a lot of the family tasks and friends tasks that we get are basically come to me through WhatsApp. So with WhatsApp integration, you can strictly, forward it from your WhatsApp straight to an Any.do task in just basically swiping or clicking, right? It's like a click away. You can utilize the endless Zapier integrations. So if you're also using Evernote, if you're also using Notion or a different device, I recommend Zapier. It depends on how you set up your process. I think Zapier really depends on what other tools are you using. So for example, I was an Evernote user for a long time, right? So being able to capture through Evernote and using Zapier to move it straight forward to Any.do was really helpful for me for a long time. So Enrique, if by the end of this presentation you are not sure on how to, let me know. It's really important for me because I'm going to walk through all the process. Stop me and say, hey, I still didn't get it. Right? Mark, the WhatsApp integration works. You have an Any.do bot on your WhatsApp, and you can basically forward messages to it. Shirley will answer that as well. Okay, I'm just reviewing some of your question. So yes, Any.do support voice to text. So the next thing is, by the way, right, is that Any.do also connects with Google Home and Alexa and Siri and basically most of the voice assistants out there. So you can also use voice. You can use our Gmail add-on. You can basically add things that, you can see it right from your Gmail, and you can easily add new tasks. You can also send new tasks through email to do at Any.do, and you'll have your new task set up right in your default list. I'm seeing some of you here are mentioning like technical issues, so Shirley will try and help on those, and what we can't help with, we'll make sure that we keep that on top of mind. I see that you tried Google Keep and Any.do, but couldn't get the habit to stick. Well, hopefully we're going to go through this today, so we'll see. Okay, I'm seeing you guys have amazing questions. Please check out that Shirley is answering you guys or giving you the relevant links in the chat. So because I won't be able to answer all your questions, the technical questions. Okay, so first thing, as I said, I would recommend you integrating and downloading Any.do to all the devices and situations you might be in, encountering a new idea or encountering your to-dos. So WhatsApp integrations, Zapier integrations, if you're using third-party tools as well, the Gmail add-on, using Google and Alexa and Siri to do it, or just sending the email. Next, if you want to capture references, right? Because a lot of the times when we do the brain dump, a lot of these things come up like with an additional file or something we need to take a photo of in order to actually be able to make sure that we have all the information on that task and we can actually let it go. So first of all, you can of course take photos and add them to the relevant tasks that you're writing down. You can automatically add articles from Pocket or even Twitter and Pinterest and many more services using the Zapier integration. So if you're doing research for something, if you're looking for inspiration, you can tap it straight out of those platforms and many, many more. We're talking about 2,000 more. So you can attach files from your computer, Dropbox, or Google Drive, or add them to a task list. It may vary between iPhone, Android, and desktop versions, but they all work eventually. And you can clip from your mobile browser straight as a new Any.do task, or by using the Chrome extension. And if you're an iPhone, you can also do just share from the page you want to keep, and you can share to Any.do, and it will be added as a task. Right. So any of these ways is a really helpful way to just capture references you need to remember moving forward. So making sure you don't lose any of them. Now, the next part is the list you'd want to create. So there's a default list that I think everybody should add, which number one is inbox. Inbox is basically where you throw in the things you need to process. This is your default list. So every time a new task comes in, you run into something else you need to process, but you haven't thought about that task yet, you throw it to your inbox. Every time you're just capturing something, unfiltered, you didn't think about it yet, you didn't go through the process we're going to show you right now, then that goes straight into the inbox. Another list you want to create is next action. So next action is the list of the one-off action items. This is actually like, the next thing you are going to do, thinking that it's not a project, but a one-off. And this is also where you're going to put in like the actual action items you're going to work for that day or the day after. So that would be like the next list. Then you have a list called waiting for. This is basically a list for things you have dependency on other people. If you have a shared project, you can use shared lists to work on that project with this other person. If not, this can be basically the place where you go and review things you're waiting for other people. We're going to see where it comes in handy in the process. Then there's a list called someday. Someday is actually a great answer for what to do with hundreds of ideas. Somedays is a list that you might want to revisit in the future, but not now. So let's say that I'm building a digital course about content marketing, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? The next course should be about guest blogging. So I'm not going to work on it in the next few weeks probably. So I'm going to put it in my someday list. And then when I will review it later on, I can choose tasks or choose ideas from my someday list, and then I'm going to move them through the process to when I actually want to start working on them. The idea is this. I need, like, if there's an idea of something that I want to do in the future, a project, a specific thing, but it's not for now, then I need to make sure that I have it, that I don't forget it. But I also need to make sure that it doesn't take any, of my daily attention when it doesn't need to. Like, if I'm not going to work on that course in the next 3 weeks, I don't need to encounter that idea in the next 3 weeks. What I do need is a system that I can trust that in 3 weeks I will be reminded that I wanted to work on it and then make a decision. So that's where the someday lists come very, very helpful. Kyla, so again, so I'm going to get to it in a second. And then there's a list called references. So this is basically, if you have documents, photographs, or links you just want to remember, I would add them to references. So some of the additional lists that a lot of people create, I have some of them as well. So if I have multiple projects, I gave this example here, like build a website, wedding planning. So again, these are, we're going to see where it comes in the process. I also always recommend adding like music to listen to, movies to watch, TV shows to watch as a list, just because I think it's like a really good resource later on. Let's see, Enrique, why would you want a someday list if you have that functionality by setting time? Well, the idea of the someday list is that I just wouldn't, like, because I just don't want to encounter it until the time that I need to, until I get to the time that I actually need to use it. So the idea of the someday list is that I can just basically set up to never encounter it. And if I put in all tasks and just like doing it in my next action and it's someday, then it's going to pop up in front of me. And this is something that I'm trying to avoid. So once we finish this step, it means two things. One, we have we've done like the brain dump process where we've thrown all the ideas, thoughts, concerns into one list, and we have it all in the inbox. Number two is that that we have, we now have Any.do on any place or device or situation we would like to capture an idea in, mobile, watch, tablet, desktop, assistants, WhatsApp, whatever you prefer, right? Something that is very, very, very important. Something that is very, very important is that make it work for you, right? Remember that, like, the idea, like, make sure that it's something that is comfortable to you, for you to just use whenever you need. Julio, my list of like categories, work, health, paperwork. We'll see. Let's go through the process together, and I want you to answer that question. By the end of the presentation, let me know if it helped you or not. So this process, we have everything listed down in the inbox. We have added Any.do to any place we'd want to add a task from, and we have the lists in place. Now, once we have all the inbox and everything written down, we go to the clarify and organize process. So the clarify is basically the process of understanding and distilling an item into a well-defined next action step. This is basically, you're going to have like so many tasks, so many ideas, and this is the process where you kind of really understand what that means, and we're going to understand what it is in a second. Then you want to organize, making sure that the task is at its right place or in the calendar folder, reference, trash, or designated project list. So this is the GTD process. Again, I just want to say that this is based on David Allen's chart. We're just gonna redesign it a little bit to give it the Any.do touch. So you can see here, you can see here that we start with in the basket. In the basket is basically like the inbox. Then you go into what is it, and then you ask, is it actionable? The first three are what capturing is all about. This is your inbox. You have stuff, you throw it in your inbox, you start asking what it is. And then, yes, this is also, by the way, in the handout. Thanks for the reminder, Beth. This is the handout. You can also go to the handout section and download this chart. And throughout the next steps, I'm going to walk you through every step of the chart to help you understand exactly what to do and when. So the capturing process ends with the question, is it actionable? Now, if it's not actionable, let's say that I've started doing it and I'm seeing that the task is not actionable, then it means that it's one of three things. One, I can delete it. I can move it to the trash. I can forget about it, right? Like if there's nothing I can do about it and I feel like I'm never going to do anything about it, or this is just old paperwork that I got, or it's a document that I don't really need, throw it away, right? Sometimes you wouldn't imagine how many times when you ask yourself, am I ever going to take action on this, yes or no, right? How many times the answer is no and throw it to the trash. It's going to help you declutter your life in so many ways. Next, if it's an idea that it's not actionable, remember the example with the guest blogging course, right? So it's not actionable for me at that point, right? So I'm going to move it to my maybe or someday list. Why? Because I like the idea, I just cannot work on it right now. It's meaningless for me to do it right now. Third thing is that I want to add, and then the third category is reference. So sometimes, for example, I go through an email, I go through even my download folders sometimes, right? And there's a document there that I don't have anything that I can actually do something with right now. Right, but I need to keep it. It can be old bills, it can be contracts, it can be ebooks that I want to read later on, right? So I'm just going to use it as a reference. So this is basically something that I like maybe I've read it and I just don't want to throw it away, but it's important to a future project that I'm going to do. So I'll just add it as a reference because it's not actionable. And if something is not actionable, I want to make sure that it doesn't intervene with my actionable items. This is super important because a lot of the time what you'll have in mind is that, oh, I'll just keep it here. I'm not going to take action, but I can keep it here. It doesn't harm anybody. The truth is that it does. Why? Because that creates noise. This basically creates a situation, right, where this actually creates a situation where you have to rethink or kind of process your next to do items. Why? Because you're seeing things. Thanks, Kaya. So this is very critical because the idea of GTD is that you encounter the right things at the right time. And if you have to start thinking, wait, is this the right thing? Is this, and reprocess everything every time you encounter it, then it's useless. By the way, the idea behind GTD is that you never encounter the same information item twice without taking action. A good friend of mine has a rule when he says, I don't open the same email twice. So the idea is like once you open an email, you have to make a decision. If I'm not going to take action, you delete it. If you need it as a reference for something, you put it in the right folder so you'll have it as a reference. And then now we're going to see what we do if it is actionable, right? But you have to do it right away. You don't open the same email twice. So this was the example. This is the example if something is not actionable, right? I've seen it. There's nothing I can do about it. I either throw it away, I put it on my someday list, or I folder it under references. What do I do if it is actionable? So if it's actionable and it takes multiple steps, I will create a list around it. So when talking about GTD, everything that is like more than one step is what is called a project. We call it a list. So if, for example, building my website, it's not one action item. It's a bunch of items. It's a bunch of action items, that I put under one roof, and that roof would be a project or a list, right? So the next steps would be to break it down into action items. But if what I have in mind as an idea is build a website, then it means that I have to put it as a project. I'm going to create a new list because I know there's multiple steps in it. If, for example, my idea is choose 10 templates from WordPress.org, right? So that would be an action item. And that action item, if it belongs, to a project that I'm already working on, such as building a website, I'm gonna put it in the right place. That would be my next step. Okay, so that's if it's actionable. Now, this is my favorite thing. Ask yourself, will it take more than 2 minutes? Like, yeah, if you encounter your next action or your next idea, you ask yourself, will it take more than 2 minutes? So I'm seeing your question about recurring tasks. So we're going to talk about this in a second. We're going to cover everything, Julio. Again, if I don't answer it by the end of the presentation, let me know. So then you ask yourself, you see the next item, this next idea you're next to do, and you ask yourself, will it take me more than 2 minutes? If the answer is no, it's up to 2 minutes. Do it right now. Just get rid of it. Just do it right now. It will. And remember that we're talking about there's the brain dump and there's the ongoing. In the ongoing, if it takes under 2 minutes, just do it and throw it away of your life. Complete the task and it's done. If it takes you more than 2 minutes, right, then ask yourself what's the next step. So, number one, you ask if can somebody else do it. This is, by the way, the best productivity hack in the world is knowing how to delegate in a meaningful way. So if somebody else can do it, you add it to your waiting for list, and immediately you delegate it to the right person, right? So for example, if you need somebody to design your your business Instagram images, around a quote, so you send them an email saying, hey, here's the list of things that I want to do. Can you please design it for me? You delegate it right away, right? And you add it to the waiting list. Why? Because this is basically the list where you're going to go back and you're going to ask yourself again, like you're basically going to see status. Did I get the response that I was waiting for? Yes or no? So this is like the waiting. This is something you cannot really get action on, but you can just review in your review process, which we'll sort later, and ask yourself, did I get it or not? Next, you ask yourself, does this task have a specific date or time? If the task has to happen in a specific date or time, you add it straight to your calendar, right? In your calendar, you only include the things that must be done, not what you wish to be done, that you wish to do. I'll explain. A meeting that you've set up, this is something you have to do. Tasks you're hoping to get done today, right, are not the things that you must do today. They stay in your next action list, not in your calendar. Why? Because once your calendar goes from being something that is, let's say, strict, once your calendar goes from something that is unmovable to something that is very fluid, your calendar isn't worth anything anymore. Why? Because you start moving around things all the time. So you only put in your calendar, things that have specific date or time. And Julio, as you asked just in a second ago, right? This is where reminders and recurring reminders come to place, because then for every task, right, I can just add a reminder, and the meaning of this is that I would actually see it when the time is right. The reminder is going to pop up. I'm going to see it when I need to see it. And if I can trust the system, and I know that I will be reminded to pay my bills on the day and time that I can actually sit down and pay my bills, right? I don't have to think about it not a minute before, not a minute after. That's the whole idea. If I know that I have to present something on Monday, or have a due date, once I know there's a due date, right, then that will be it. I will be reminded. I don't need to rethink about it. I'm going to add the reminders and I will be conscious about it. So you can do that. You can add the event to your calendar as well. Well, Kyla, that's the problem with the wish list tasks on the calendar. And again, once your calendar becomes something that is not very formidable, that is not something like what goes into my calendar doesn't go away from my calendar. Once it becomes fluid, then your calendar slowly loses its appeal and basically it becomes less and less relevant, because you cannot count on it anymore. You cannot count on, did I do this or not? So let's say that it doesn't have a due date or a reminder that you need to attach to it. So you ask yourself, what is the next action item? So if something actually, as you said, is actionable, doesn't have date and time to do it, right? So you just need to break it down to what is that action item and add it to your next action list, and your project lists, right? And an action item should be the next tangible, actual item. I'm going to show you an example. So practice the piano, right? That's not a well enough defined action item. Do one full Simply Piano lesson. Simply Piano is an amazing app for piano lessons. My daughter uses it. So they have lessons, right? So practice the piano doesn't mean much to me. Why? Because this can be a 5-minute task. This can be a 20-minute task. This can be, I don't know, 5 hours and 1 sec or 1 second. But a simply piano lesson is something very defined. So doing one is a great example of how a really good action item will look like. Now, choose website design. That's an enormous action item. On the other hand, choose 10 website templates that cost under $60 from, I don't know, Theme Forest, for example. That's a website for WordPress templates, right? This is a very specific action item. I just need 10 templates that cost under $60 and have them in a list. That's a very specific action item versus choose the design for my website, which can, you can get scattered easily. Study for an exam, right? So again, this could mean anything from 3 days marathon to a 1-hour binge. On the other hand, read first 3 chapters of the book Data Smart. By the way, it's a great book by the data scientist from MailChimp. TC, yeah, you're right. On our last webinar, we talked about SMART goals. So this is very, very much the same. Yeah. Kyla, no, I would not schedule that into my calendar. I would add it to my action list. And then when I choose what to work on every day, I would look at that action list and I would choose what to put in today. We're going to talk about that in a second. So basically, you want a really well-defined action item. Why is it so important to have a well-defined action item? It's because, number one, it saves you a lot of time. Al, yeah, we're going to send the links. Enrique, you're envisioning my next slide, so hold on just a sec and you'll get it. Okay, so why is it so important to have such a well-defined action item? Number one, the more defined the action item is, the less thinking you have to put in before doing it. The less thinking you have to put in before doing it, the more chances you'll just do it. If I have to start thinking what does studying for an exam means, then I have it's so easy to procrastinate. It's so easy to add things to it. But reading for 3 chapters, I just know what I need to do right now. Number 2 is that once you know what an action item is and define it in the right way, you can also estimate how long will it take you. And then let's say, for example, you have 10 next action items and you have 15 minutes between today is just like the Zoom meeting to the next Zoom meeting, right? So if I have 15 minutes and I know that I have 3 tasks that just by looking at them takes me less than 15 minutes, I can just go ahead and do it right away. Brian, you're asking if my next action is bigger and takes longer than I actually expected. What do I do then? Well, there are different approaches to this. Number one, it's a matter of how you prioritize your day, and it mostly should impact that. And also, once you figured out that the action item is too big, right, there's always 2 options. Either one, you just need to secure more time for it, right? Eventually there's no way for me to shorten how much a big task takes, right? If I'm, let's say, reading the first 3 chapters of the book and each chapter is 100 pages long, right? Then the 300 pages will take me the time that it takes me to read. Now, in the ongoing, I can say, wait, 300 pages takes me, I don't know, a full day of reading, right? Then I just learn from it for the next day. And I say, wait, if I have to read 3 chapters, I would prioritize things differently. So you just basically need to learn from it for the next thing. So as we said, like the reason it's so important is because the more well-defined action item is, it's easier to actually do it and not give up into procrastinating, into start kind of, let's say, getting lost in trying to redefine it, right? And you spend and by the way, we spend a lot of time thinking, wait, what does this task actually means? And if it takes us too long, right, we're wasting a lot of time and brain power. On the other hand, if I already know what it is, I'm not losing that brain power. So it helps to kind of overcome procrastination. It helps you better manage your time because you can basically press smaller tasks in small time gaps that you have. And it's just more useful. Also saves tons of brain energy power. So this is how you define a really good action item. Next thing that I love using is context tags. Enrique, you asked for it, and here they are. So to make yourself more productive, you can use what we call context tags. And good context tags can be a lot of different things. So it can be energy level requirement, high, medium, low. So for example, for each action item that I have for each task, I can actually maybe add it takes high energy, medium energy, or low energy. I'll give you an example on how it works best. So if you know that you are very creative, if you know that you are very creative, if you know in the mornings, if you know you're high energy in the morning, but after you eat your your lunch, you become very tired, right? So you know that when you have an action item that needs you to be very creative, like creating a presentation, brainstorming new ideas, designing something maybe, or brainstorming your business marketing strategy, each one of those, right? So you can put that in the morning because you need high energy. If you have something like checking emails, which is usually very low energy, right? Or just like doing bureaucracy of just pushing paperwork, you can tag it as low energy. And then when you prioritize your day, you can already know where to put it. And again, like if you have time in the morning, you'll put a high energy type of action item there and a low energy action item after lunch, for example. Next thing is time assessment. So I think this is a really, really, really great insight for context tags. If if an assignment takes you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 25 minutes, you can add so many tasks a day to become, let's say, in between things, productivity expert. There's so many things that would, some emails you need just 3 minutes to answer, or there's some tasks you just really need like 4 minutes to answer WhatsApps or whatever, or it's 10 minutes or 25 minutes. Once it helps you really utilize let's say the dead time blocks in your day, 15 minutes between meetings, 10 minutes between meetings, 5 minutes while you're waiting for somebody who's just like running 5 minutes late. You can literally go into your your tags, click on 5 minutes, and see what are all the amazing action items you can do in these 5 minutes. So instead of just scrolling through your Instagram feed or staring at the window, you can just go to your 5 minutes tags and you can just hit off like other action items right away. It feels so amazingly good when somebody's late for a meeting for a few minutes, and instead of just like feeling my time is wasted, you finish new things, and you can do it so many times a day. You'd be amazed of how helpful 5 minute tags are. Next, you can also give context tags, by scenario. So maybe this is something that I do when I'm out shopping, or maybe when I'm at work or at a computer. Maybe or when I'm with my kids, right? Especially now, the world, a lot of people are in the house with their kids, and you sometimes have an hour off somehow, between the parents, and you can work. But then, you have tasks that you maybe don't want to do because you can do them when your kids are around, right? Or some things you can only do at work, some things you can do it need your computer for, right? So sometimes, there's tasks you just need a computer. If you're working like with an Excel sheet, for example, you'd rather do it on a computer than on mobile. So then maybe you can delegate, maybe you can postpone a mobile action item and do a computer action item because now you're next to a computer. Next, of course, they have the classic ones: priority, high, medium, low. And then, you can always make sure you have the right mixture within your day. So yes, it makes sense to to merge and filter different tags together based on on your needs. So for example, you're at home between Zooms, so you do 5 minutes. You look for 5 minutes tasks that are also at home, and you just look at them all together, of course. Santiago, you can use them all. Just remember, of course, that when you filter and prioritize, you're not going to be able to cross filter them together. But you'll be able to maybe take the highest hierarchy you're looking for at the right time, and then just go through it and see what matches. Okay. So next thing, and this is very important, is review. So the review is basically, wait, yeah, before I go on, do you have any other questions about this? I'm seeing that you guys are actually, you still have questions. So before I move forward. So Kyla, what you can do, again, if you have the different lists on Any.do, you still have today, tomorrow, next 7 days. And then when you go to all tasks, you're going to see the prioritized items as in your today, and you're going to see it, cross ventures. Zaki, thanks for the idea. That's a great idea. Okay, so I'm moving to the next thing. This one looks Lorelai. List for work life versus personal life separate. So to be honest, I put them all together. The idea is this: you have 24 hours a day. It's the same 24 hours for work and for life. So you have to make them work together. You have to make them, let's say, what's the word? To have synergy between them, right? So the next part would be review. Review sounds simple, and it is simple, but it's a habit that you really have to maintain to make this process work for you. So basically, you want to regularly review your tasks to make sure your system stays on track. Keeping up with a strict schedule for reviewing your task and can make keeping up with a strict schedule for reviewing your task is something that can make or break your process. Why? Because if you don't go through it, right? If you don't review your tasks once a week or once a day, it's at a certain level, right? Then what happens is that you start having all these tasks that are irrelevant or out of date, or that you're late on. And if you're not updating it, then you're making the system obsolete for you. Yeah, Brian, you're going to have the presentation. So basically, if I'm not reviewing my items on a weekly, and for me, I would also say daily, by the way, levels, then you are risking your process to go obsolete. And remember, the second you cannot trust your system, that's where it fails. The reason the system works so well is because that if you keep it maintained, if you work with it, then it's just going to work flawless for you. You're never going to miss anything, and you'll be able to relax. But if you start, drifting away and not reviewing or not maintaining it, then it's going to be harder for you, and the effect is going to be less. You're going to have a lesser effect of how this productivity method works. Now, the weekly review, something that I encourage, is you go through all your lists once a week. And just think of just to make sure that everything there is up to date, that everything is still relevant. Maybe some things you've done and you didn't remember doing, and some things maybe you don't want to do anymore. Some things that may have, something have become obsolete, or you don't need to do them anymore, or you just look at it and you decide, I just don't want to do it, right? It's not something I'm going to take action on. The next thing is there's a process that I love doing on a daily level. I use Moment for this, Moment or Plan My Days, an Any.do feature, which shows you all your tasks that you have to do for the day, and you can decide if you want to keep it, if you've already done it, if you want to postpone it or delete it. So basically, this helps me focus and make sure that I spend my time today where I need to spend it. Also helps me kind of understand, sometimes we add so many things to our today because it's easy to add things to our today. So I just go through it and make sure that I have a reasonable amount of tasks, based on the amount of tasks and the time it's going to take. Cornelia, do I plan buffer for? Yes. So I always try to keep my day a little bit loose for buffers between meetings, between stuff. I try to avoid a really back-to-back approach. But life will, I think what COVID taught us is life is always going to surprise you. Julio, we're hearing you out loud with the Outlook idea. So regarding GTD and moment, so you're adding, so the idea behind moment is adding this to your today. You're going to make sure that you're going to get to it today. And the 5-minute items are, you can look at it also maybe sometimes as bonuses in a way. If I get an extra 5 minutes, like sometimes you get extra 5 minutes today that you can utilize. So you can jump straight to your 5-minute stacks and still do it and not just waste like the 5 minutes. So review on a weekly level, you just want to make sure that all your tasks are up to date. Everything is in its designated lists, that you don't have anything that is just like creating noise in your list. And on your daily level, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing the right thing, that you are looking at the right thing, that you are not overcrowding your day with action items you cannot do, and it will just frustrate you, or even worse, you overstaff them thinking you're going to get all that done, and then causing you stress, for things you're late with. And the next one is, well, I guess it's the most challenging one, which is basically engage. Simply do what you have to do, right? You have the list in place, you have all your tasks in place, and you just have to go look at your today and do every task that you need to do. Super simple, right? And basically, the idea is that when you get to the engage level, you are facing a list of relevant, important things you need to work on, knowing exactly what you need to do because you clarify them and you wrote the action items in a clear way. Reduces your stress of tackling each task because you know exactly what to do. You know exactly which items to do. You already know the capacity it'll take, and you don't have to make any new decisions about them. So that's basically where you're at. This is like the end of the process. This is every day you have your list organized. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, so Eagle, what can you say about basic routine tasks? Are they recommended for personal motivation boost to make the bed rush? To be honest, I think some things, once they've become like a real routine, if you're trying to implement a routine in your life, that's one thing. If you already have that in your routine, then I usually, just add it as like a morning routine. I wouldn't break it down to small tasks. Number one, because it's just a lot to handle, and like at the beginning it looks fun because you're marking a lot of tasks as done, but this is just kind of eventually becomes busy work if it's not something that is really, really relevant. And then if you, I think Shirley can help you with that. Do you have any other questions about the process, things you're not sure of? Okay. So I see that you guys have a lot of technical questions. Thanks, Rad. With the engage step, how do you maintain motivation? Andrea, I think this is like the billion-dollar questions for everything. So the motivation question is a difficult one to answer. And you know what? I think this is an amazing idea for one of our future webinars. But to give it in a very short answer, I believe that this motivation is basically based on two things: reducing friction and increasing, let's say, passion for the item. I think what GTD does really, really well. Is that it reduces the friction in doing the action item. I also think it kind of boosts the passion in doing the item, because if you are working on something that you're passionate about and you understand that every task you'll do is something that is relevant, it's going to push you forward, I think that's a great motivation. And of course, there's like a bigger question around motivation and doing what you love, or sorting your energy levels. I think is a big one. I talked about it before in the context tags. So I think also matching motivation levels to energy level of the day is very important. If you have some tasks that you're doing, like you're low motivation, but you have times where you are high energy, maybe that's a good combination, because high energy will push you into doing those. So that's my answer for that. Sam, well, basically because you're adding all the action items based on the list. So let's say, for example, that I have built a website list. So I'm going to have like tens of items there, maybe. So I'm adding them to my to-do list, so I know when I'm actually going to do them. Regarding the how long a task takes, I don't think the question is how time does it take, as much as how many steps does it have. So, for example, I gave this example of like finding 10 design templates on ThemeForest under $60, right? So that is one step, and I can do it for 10 minutes, and I can do it for 5 hours. It depends on my criteria for what is a good web design. But it's one item. It's one item. If, for example, by the way, I know that I'm the kind of person who takes a long time to decide what design I think it looks good, or I know that I'm just the kind of person who creates a list, but then I have to review it and revise it to make sure I didn't make any kind of, let's say, biased mistakes. So I know I'll create these two action items, saying I create the list, and then I'll do another action item of reviewing the list. That would be like the next thing that I would do. So how do you define if a task is a project, if many tasks, or just a task? So anything that is like really multiple steps, for me, the subtasks are usually more descriptive than they are, like multiple steps. So if you have something that is, I would kind of try and go with how you feel about it, or how many steps does it, like big steps does it have. If all the subtasks are really, really small, right? Or maybe there's a hierarchy that you have, a really big project, and within that project you have smaller projects, right? And that would be an example of using subtasks and as part of a bigger list. So Stefan, I'm sorry. So we're gonna send an invite to the next webinar to your email, probably in a week or two, where you can register there. Thanks, Stefan. So before we go, I just want to remind you, for now, by the end of this webinar, and in the email tomorrow, you're going to have the opportunity to buy yearly premium plan for only $29.99. So you can click on the link here and purchase it right now and upgrade your account to premium, and just basically start working with GTD, get all the tags, get unlimited moments, focus mode, and a lot of amazing other features. And regarding tech support and other technical questions, Shirley, can you please put in again like the email they can contact? Yeah, exactly, perfect. So for any support question you have, feel free to send an email there. And we're going to send you tomorrow or the day after, you're going to get the slides, you're going to replay for the webinar, and you're going to get a copy of the chart that you can use for yourself as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. I surely enjoyed it. I know Shirley enjoyed it as well. I hope you guys had a great time as well. For any questions that you have, send us your questions, send us your requests. We love getting them. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day.